Hey, Meg.
Hey,
What's happening?
typical. Typical
Typical.
day.
Yeah, we're back at it, though. It was not a typical episode. This one's a little bit different. This one kind of spans out through many decades and many years, and I think it's something that you potentially heard of, and it's probably just another name and a bunch of other names that I'll say wrong. So, I think we should we just jump in the intro and get it over with?
Mm-hmm.
Not get it over with, you know what I mean? Because, like, the intro is pretty cool and everything, but I really want to jump into this one.
Gonna do it.
Should we do it?
Yep.
All right, you tell me when.
No.
See, that was worth it. The intro's really cool. So, this one, we have a very fascinating, a very interesting story, as we mentioned. And if you're somebody that doesn't read, that's okay. That's why you're listening to the podcast. So you don't have to read all this information. But the title is Centralia, Pennsylvania. And you might not be kind of familiar where it is. It's a borough in a pretty much ghost town in Columbia County, Pennsylvania, United States. It's part of the northeastern Pennsylvania. Its population has declined from 1,000 people in 1980 to 5 in 2020.
Only 5?
Only 5. And we've done other stories in this where there has been some people that less than 10 people in a town. So if you want, go back and check those out. But all real estate in this area was actually claimed under an eminent domain, and we'll kind of jump into a little bit of the details of there. They even discontinued the zip code. The post office is like, nope, not going there anymore. State and local officials just decided that until pretty much people pass away, that they could stay in there. But again, we'll jump into that in a little bit later in this episode, because it's pretty interesting how this story, or kind of how the whole entire town got to where it is today. Back in the day, there was many Native American tribes were living in this area, and they sold the land to kind of some of the people that came in 1749. It's documented for 500 euro. Then in 1793, Robert Morris, a hero of the Revolutionary War, and kind of even signed the Declaration of Independence. Hopefully you have heard of that. If not, maybe it's time to go back to school. Did acquire the land. He then declares bankruptcy in 1798, and the land was surrendered to the Bank of the United States. So then a French sea captain by the name of Stephen Girard. I was thinking, as soon as I was like, a French sea captain, I was thinking like super French name. That doesn't seem overly Frenchy to me, does it?
Is it Stefan?
I don't know. Stephen, Stephen. You let us know. I've seen Stephen spelled that way and Stefan, so I don't know. Either way, French sea captain then buys it for $30,000, and it includes 68 tracts east of another place called Morris. He then learns, hey, there's a whole bunch of coal in this area, and decides that, hey, you know what, that $30,000 investment is going to make me some money. He sells it. This person buys it. They sell it. Just continually sold over time. And you know what I mean? The coal mines are opening, they're closing. Just kind of a typical kind of town at this point, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Nothing crazy. But it then gets turned into a borough, like we mentioned before, in 1866. And, obviously with the coal industry, that's the main employer in this area. And then you get Alexander Ray, who actually founds the town, Centralia, that it is known for today. And then he gets murdered in his buggy by a member members, actually, there's 3 members of the Molly Maguires in October 17th, 1868.
Dun, dun, dun.
There it is. Have you heard of the Molly Maguires?
No.
So the Molly Maguires are, they were, I think, Irish, a lot of them Irish, Liverpool and part of the eastern United States, but they were just activists among Irish American and immigrant coal workers. So anytime there was a strike, anytime there was a movement, especially with coal miners and stuff, these people were everywhere. And it's kind of, what's that new show that are the Peaky Blinders, you know what I mean? Just kind of the Irish kind of mentality, something like that, where they kind of stuck up for a lot of things, a lot of murders, a lot of incidents and violence and things were controlled by them, but definitely caused by them. And actually the 3 people that ended up murdering Alexander Ray. They were actually hung in the town center a couple of months later after it went through trial and everything. So, but yeah, they decided then after, with the town continually shifting and everything, a legend among locals tells, apparently it's reported, and this is according to Wikipedia, Father Daniel Ignatius McDermott, the first Roman Catholic priest to call Centralia home. He then cursed the land in retaliation for being assaulted by, guess what? 3 members of the Maguires in 1869. McDermott said that there would be a day when St. Ignatius?
Ignatius.
Yep, that too. Roman Catholic Church would be the only structure remaining in Centralia. All right. It reaches its max population of 2,761 people in 1890. At its peak, this town had 7 churches, 5 hotels, 27 saloons, 2 theaters, a bank, a partridge in a pear tree, a post office, and 14 general and grocery stores.
So it was pretty big at one point.
Yeah, especially, I mean, this is, the late 1890s, early 1900s. And again, coal mining's good. It's booming. There's a peak. There's railroads going around. A lot of coal, you know what I mean? Just the Reading Railroad and everything like that, I think, was around this area as well. And then 1960 hits in the 60s. Not only is coal mining kind of declining at this point, but everything was good until then. And then most of the companies actually shut down in this town. And this is where things get a little bit different because there's one issue that happened, but a lot of analysts, a lot of people, historians and everything, they disagree about what happened to this town. And I have to ask you, have you heard of the town in Pennsylvania that is always on fire?
No.
It's this town. And now you're going to find out what happened. So it's an Erie. It's obviously a ghost town, and it's continually burning. There's been a lot of stuff that I've seen online in just vacant buildings and ground burning, just heat coming from the streets, and it's this place in Pennsylvania. So,
Interesting.
So like we mentioned, a lot of people disagree, and here's a couple of kind of people that are very well spoken, wrote some stuff about it. You have a guy named David DeCoke. I don't know how to say it. We're going to go with David. He was the author of Fire Underground. The ongoing tragedy of the Centralia mine fire concluded that it started with an attempt to clean up the town landfill. So in May 1962, they decided to hire 5 people of the volunteer fire department to go in and clean the town landfill. And this did include an abandoned strip mine pit next to the Oddfellows Cemetery just outside the borough limits. And it had been done a couple of times in years prior on Memorial Day, and it was just in a different location. May 27, 1962, the firefighters, as they had in the past, set the dump on fire and just kind of let it burn. Unlike previous years, though, they didn't fully extinguish the fire. An unsealed opening in the pit allowed the fire to enter, and the coal mine caught fire in all of the veins, the tunnels, and it just, it is what it is today. I mean, it even to this day is still burning. And this was in the 60s.
That's crazy.
So another source then claims that the fire had started the previous day when a trash hauler dumped hot ash that included the coal and everything like that into an open trash pit. So this author of The Day the Earth Caved noted that city council members, June 4th, 1962, referred to 2 fires at the dump, that 5 firefighters had submitted bills for fighting the fire in the landfill area. So by law, they were responsible for installing a fire-resistant clay barrier between each of the layers of the landfill, so something like this wouldn't happen. Fell behind schedule. They didn't complete the barrier, and then this allowed the hot coals to actually penetrate the coal and kind of start this never-ending fire that is there. But then there's another theory.
It's scary that could happen.
Isn't it wild? I mean, but then you have a little negligence where some people didn't complete the fire barriers and it caught fire. Or some more negligence that they didn't put out the fire.
But the idea that it could go on for so long is just wild.
Yeah. I don't know. Like I said, it's hard for me to imagine it, obviously, but I don't know as well. I guess coal burns really well. I mean, it wasn't a lot of things. And it's just continually. And I mean, it is unbelievable because it's never happened before. I mean, it probably never will happen before. Just kind of one of those freak things, or maybe if you believe in that stuff, it is the curse that McDermott laid on this land. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it just kind of stinks because it was like in a cemetery too. You know what I mean? Has to be a lot of, I would imagine, Native Americans and everything else throughout years and years and years from the 1700s and earlier, and everybody that was there laying, at rest, and then the fires. But there was one other theory that the Bast Colliery Fire of 1932, which was never fully extinguished, potentially could be the reason for this. And then the landfill, it finally got there, and it was kind of a coincidence, which I kind of find hard to believe. But a miner named Frank Jurgel Sr. says that, hey, this theory can't be possible because he was operating a bootlegging mine with his brother near the landfill from 60 to 62. And if the original fire hadn't been extinguished in the 30s, the brothers probably would have died from the gases and everything in the tunnels, which it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one thing too, that a lot of bootlegging mining was happening. There's a lot of stories and everything else from that. So that's also a little wild to get into an old mine pit that hasn't probably been used in a while. But then in 1979, all right, what is that, 17 years or whatever after, locals become aware of the scale of the problem. A gas station owner, who was also the mayor at the time, John Coddington, inserted a dipstick into one of the underground tanks to kind of check the fuel levels. When he withdrew it, it seemed pretty hot. So he put a thermometer down into the tank, and it was 172 degrees Fahrenheit. How
Wow.
that didn't explode and cause an even more problem. But I mean, you're that below, and it's 172 degrees from that fire. Then it obviously starts to get statewide attention, and it just continues to burn and burn. On February 14th in 1981, a 12-year-old was named Todd Dombowski,
Mm-hmm.
was, I believe, in his grandmother's backyard, and actually fell into a sinkhole that just came out of nowhere, 4 feet wide by 150 foot deep. It just opened up. But thankfully, he was able to grab a tree root, and then his cousin, another 14-year-old Eric Wolfgang, pulled him out of the hole to safety. The plum of hot steam just kind of coming up from the hole was actually tested and found to contain lethal levels of carbon monoxide. Just out of nowhere.
Sinkholes are scary.
Yeah, I know. I mean, could you just imagine you're just a kid playing, doing whatever you're out in their backyard, not on a cell phone, that's for sure. And then the ground just opens.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, unbelievable. That is scary to an understatement. But as we mentioned earlier, then in 1992, Pennsylvania Governor Bob Casey starts the movement for the eminent domain on all property in the area, condemning all the buildings, the houses, and everything else. In a legal effort, they ended up more or less saying that, if you had a home and everything else like that, you were more or less allowed to live in it until you passed away. So, like we mentioned, in 2002, they discontinued the zip code 17927. And at that point, fast forward a little bit, in 2006, there was only 16 homes still standing. And then by 2009, it was 11. And then he really tried to just kind of evict the last remaining people. And then last reported in 2010, 5 homes remained. So, but it actually got so bad, there's a nearby village called Burnsville. It also had to be evacuated as the fire started under there as well.
That's crazy.
Isn't it just mind-boggling? It's almost like a science fiction book or movie, isn't it?
Right.
But it, like I mentioned earlier, not only is it mind-boggling that it happened, but it's still burning to this day. There's just streets. When you look at images and stuff, the streets are almost like broken and steaming, and there's just graffiti everywhere on certain roads. There's one like very famous road, but I did also read that I believe that because it was kind of gaining so much attraction and everything, they actually tore up the road and everything just to kind of keep people away from it. People love to check out crazy stuff like this, and
I'm
that
sure
sounds pretty
that one's
crazy.
a safety issue.
You would, you think? What if that opens up into another 4 by 150 foot deep hole?
Right. The
But
ground below is burning away. It's very possible.
away, and it has also attracted a lot of ghost hunters. Even if you might not be into it, but there's all sorts of reports of seeing things, which could potentially make sense again if you're into that with a burning cemetery. But what a wild story, and it's something a little bit different than we've done. We've done a lot of the murders and disappearances and a lot of different stuff, and I kind of stumbled upon this, and it really, really intrigued me. So I wanted to kind of write something up. And what's even cool too is it's so big. There's all sorts of just different things that have been produced from it. Documentaries, books, everything else like that. It's been used as a model for fictional ghost towns and everything, like for manifestations. What's a big word? Manifestations of hell. A lot of famous examples is Strange Highways and Vampire Zero. There was a screenwriter that actually kind of used the basis of this town for Silent Hill in the film. 1982 PBS documentary, Centralia Mine Fire, contains interviews with residents and relates to the story of the mine fire. 87, a film was made, kind of, what it was in the surrounding mine areas. Then there was another author that actually described it as the strangest, saddest town that probably has ever existed. And just, more and more stuff. There was a pretty famous one, at least with some actors. In 91, there was a film, Nothing But Trouble, that actually starred Chevy Chase and Dan Aykroyd. So, and this was, the fictional town was Vulcanvania, which was after that. Wild, right? I just can't believe. But thankfully, I guess they were able to get people out. The gases didn't, do more harm than it would. But just crazy. Just another example of a really small town that just kind of had a crazy past. So thanks, Internet, for being able to bring this to my attention. Obviously, the only source that we had from this was Wikipedia. A lot of good stuff in there. And I don't know. Should we do the quote?
Let's do the quote.
Let's do the quote. A diamond is a chunk of coal that did well under pressure. Henry Kissinger. Cool, right?
Very cool.
Yeah, cool.
But there's a lot of diamonds in that town.
You think so?
I think there would be.
Maybe that's what was bringing a bunch of people there.
Maybe.
It's got to be super dangerous to go and try to find them, though, right?
Yes.
Huh. We're not going. Can we take this one off the bucket list as well?
Yes.
Okay. Cool. I don't have anything else. You have anything else on this? No, that's a good one. So that's a wrap, as they call it in the show business. Yeah, that's all I got. I don't know. But either way, we'll be back next week with another episode of the Your Town podcast. Hopefully you enjoyed it. And Meg, hopefully you enjoyed this format a little more. You're able to just, dribble in there, put a little sprinkles. And just kind of add to it. So super excited again. And I'm going to have to get some more candy corn. I'm almost out of the Brock's candy corn. If you're wondering what I'm talking about, go check out last week's episode. It was a pretty cool thing about the family of the Brock family. So, all right, that's all we got. Appreciate it if you're still listening. And make sure you guys check out the Deluxe Edition Network. It's December. We have some new podcasts of the month. The Deluxe Edition Pod and the Steve and Someone Crypto Show. I forgot what it was. That's on me. But maybe I just did it on purpose. So you'll be like, what is he talking about? I'm going to go to the Deluxe Edition Network myself and find out. And I feel like you should. So go check it out. We can't thank you enough. And we will see you next week. Take care, everybody.
Bye.